Hello and good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Market Snapshot series. My name is sorry, my name is Rufus Kamau, Markets Analyst at FX Pesa. So today we'll be talking about the current market events. We'll be talking about the current S&P Global Manufacturing as well as Services PMI data that is coming out for the better part of the day. So we know that yesterday's earnings from Tesla were upbeat or higher than expected. And at the same time, we also know that there is currently a very strong gold rally. So we'll be talking about all that, try to identify potential market opportunities. We will discuss the current events or the key drivers in the markets. And once we cover these, hopefully everyone will trade from an informed perspective. So as always, I would like to begin with a disclaimer that this session is not investment advice. It's not a recommendation to trade. So you should always do your own analysis, do your own due diligence, and practice proper risk management. So let's get things started immediately. And I'll be starting with the economic calendar. So as you can see, today being Thursday, the 24th of October, we've had quite a number of economic reports coming from S&P Global, mainly focusing on the flash manufacturing PMI and services PMI for various economies. So first and foremost, we had data coming in from Australia at 46.6 for manufacturing, which was below 50.0. Remember, 50.0 level is the midpoint between contraction and expansion. So this is below 50, which indicates contraction. And compared to the previous reading, it's much lower, indicating that manufacturing is worsening in Australia. So as for the services, and this has been the trend across major economies, services have been much stronger than manufacturing. And in this case, services are still in expansion, and they had a slight improvement from 50.5, which was revised from 50.6, up to 50.6 in the previous month. So as for Japan, manufacturing PMI came in at 49.0, worse than expected and lower than the previous reading. Then for France, we saw 44.5, which was worse than the previous reading and worse than expected, indicating that manufacturing is still contracting in France. Services dived deeper into contraction territory from 49.6 in the previous reading down to 48.3. So Germany, which is the leading economy in the Eurozone, had 42.6 in manufacturing, which was a slight improvement from the previous reading of 40.6, and of course, better than the expected reading. Services were also up, better than expected, 51.4, higher than the expectation of 50.6, higher than the same previous reading. So going forward, we are looking at flash manufacturing PMI for the Eurozone and services for the Eurozone. Usually, we don't get much of a reaction on the Euro based on flash manufacturing and services PMI unless there's a big difference, mainly because the big economies in the Eurozone tend to be leading indicators. In this case, we have France doing worse, Germany doing well, which was a mixed reaction. And overall, manufacturing is at 45.9, a big improvement from the previous reading of 45.0, whereas services were up 51.2, which missed expectations of 51.5 and missed the previous reading of 51.4. So going forward, for the rest of the day, we will be having the third day of the BRICS Summit. This is summit by the Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Of course, now there are new members of the BRICS, so we'll be expecting more developments. And among the key highlights in the BRICS meeting is the potential of the BRICS countries agreeing on a new currency that they'll be using for international trade. Hopefully, if there's any development, this could bring some much needed volatility in the markets, especially in commodities markets, gold, oil, among other commodities. So at 11:30, we'll be getting the flash manufacturing and services PMI for the UK. This is where we expect much action. And of course, in the afternoon, we'll be getting more. And in this case, flash manufacturing and services PMI for the US, which is expected to be the major mover of the markets today. So in between, we'll be having the monetary policy report hearings for the UK. This will be somewhere between 4 p.m. and 4:45 p.m. Then the IMF meetings continue on the fourth day. We'll get the natural gas storage data from the US at 5:30 p.m. And then towards the end of the day, we get a speech from the Bank of England Governor Bailey at 10:45 p.m. So those are the major movers in the markets. Of course, as we head into Friday, we'll be starting with the Tokyo Core CPI, which is expected to be at 1.7%, down from 2% in the previous reading. Later on, we'll be having core retail sales from Canada, as well as retail sales at 3:30 p.m. on Friday. And then University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey, as well as inflation expectations at 5 p.m. on Friday. The meetings will continue for IMF, and then another speech from Bank of England Governor Bailey on Saturday at 6:20 p.m. So those are the key events that we are expecting in the markets for the day. And then looking at other events in the economic calendar, we'll try to describe them, understand how they may impact the markets. And once we do that, hopefully everyone will trade from an informed perspective. So as usual, once you join in, kindly say hi on the comment section, and this will confirm that everything is working just fine. So let's move on to the next part of the presentation today. And before we move on, let me check on the comment section. Good morning, Thomas Mashuma. Aikobo Frank, thank you for joining, and good morning. Morning, Jason David Giduka. Morning, J Squad. Thank you for joining. I can see Violet Asige in the house. Thank you for joining. Lemuel Kuria, Samuel Njoroge, Grace Wairimo, and Melvin Munene. Thank you for joining. So if you have any questions relating to the presentation, feel free to type them in the comment section, and I'll be responding on the go. So we already have our first question here from J Squad. So in Japan, Finance Minister Katsunobu Kato said he sees one-sided rapid moves in the currency market after the yen slammed over 1% against the greenback. Kindly explain the one-sided view. So I will be explaining that. We know that the yen has been weakening at quite an alarming pace. And of course, that's opportunity for us Forex traders. So on the next part of today's presentation, it's something that is quite important. And this is Tesla earnings that came in last night after market close. And after the earnings, you can see that the stock was trading 1.98% yesterday, closing at $213.65 per share. However, after the announcement of earnings, the stock rallied by 11.54%. So the expected opening price for today will be $238.4 per share after Tesla beat earnings. So looking at the earnings themselves, there's quite a number of key highlights. So Tesla Wednesday reported an unexpected improvement in earnings for the third quarter, lifting its recently battered shares in after-hours trading. So the company reported a 6% increase in sales volume, which was fairly modest for an automaker that not long ago was reporting 50% annual growth in vehicles sold. It's far below the 20 to 30% growth rate that CEO Elon Musk told investors Wednesday he expected next year. So the better profit came not from increasing sales, but from success in cutting its cost to build vehicles. So it's basically an improvement in manufacturing. So the company said the average cost per vehicle built came down to its lowest level ever at $35,100 per car, down about $2,400 or 6% from an year earlier. So Tesla has been leading a price war in the electric vehicle sector as a response to increased competition, especially from Chinese automakers. Investors had previously sold off Tesla shares, disappointed by lack of details at a company event on plans for self-driving robotaxis. But shares rose about 9% in aftermarket trading following the report. So for the quarter, Tesla earned about $2.5 billion, or 72 cents a share, and this was up 8% from a year ago. So analysts' consensus forecast had been forecasting earnings per share to slip to 59 cents. So in this case, the earnings were better than expected. So reporting 72 versus an expectation of 59 is basically a very strong earnings beat. So Tesla increased revenue, didn't come from selling cars. However, revenue from the traditional car company business model was up only 1% compared to the same period last year. But it had $185 million increase, or 33%, in the sale of regulatory credits. Tesla, with all its electric offerings, sells credits to legacy automakers who are still mostly selling gasoline fuel vehicles and have not sold enough low or no emissions vehicles to meet environmental regulations. Those values were down slightly from second quarter though. So it also saw revenue from the sale of solar cells, batteries, and other energy products nearly double, rising 1.5 billion or 93% compared to a year earlier. So the company also said preparations remain underway for new vehicles, including more affordable models that it plans to launch in the first half of next year. But Tesla is well known for not meeting its self-imposed targets for debuting new vehicles. The company also said that the Cybertruck, its futuristic-looking pickup, was profitable for the first time. The truck has been dogged by problems and recalls. However, including a recall of all of the pickups on US roads earlier this month due to its problems with its backup camera. If the fifth recall for the vehicle since it went to production a year ago. So on top of the good news that we saw from Tesla earnings yesterday, there's also the additional news that Tesla has not sold its Bitcoin. And given that Bitcoin has been making quite an impressive rally over the past 1 month, Tesla is also set to benefit from the increase in the value of Bitcoin that it holds. So in this case, there's utmost confidence in the stock, and that may explain why the stock is about to open the market today up 11.67%. So we know that Tesla is a part of two major equity indices that we trade here, the S&P 500 as well as the Nasdaq 100 indices. So we will be expecting to see much better performance from the two indices owing to the strong performance of Tesla in pre-market trading today. So that being said, looking at other highlights in the market, German economic downturn eases. So we are seeing an improvement in Germany manufacturing as well as services PMIs. So UK 10-year yield rises towards 16-week high of about 4.24%. So this is quite surprising. We are seeing it happening across board, where despite central banks cutting interest rates, this is Bank of England as well as the Federal Reserve, the bonds tends to be increasing in value, in this case, in terms of the yields. And it shows a market that is betting against the central banks that are currently busy cutting rates. So European stocks rise. Of course, we would expect to see this, especially after seeing manufacturing and services PMI showing an overall improvement. So we are seeing European equity indices going up, with the Eurostoxx 50 up 0.4%, whereas the Eurostoxx 600 gained 0.3%. And this is a much broader stock market index for the Eurozone. So France business morale, weakest in almost 4 years. India manufacturing sector sustains strong growth. Malaysia, inflation rate lowest in 5 months at 1.8%, and Brent rises, focus on Middle East. In this case, a rise towards $76 per barrel. So those are some of the key highlights in the market today. I don't know if I was sharing this. So these were the highlights from Trading Economics. So from Yahoo Finance, we don't have much of big news. Of course, the key highlight or the headline for the day is that Tesla surges after earnings profit beat. So besides this, there are other major news. One, NVIDIA targets more India growth via partnerships. Stocks climb on earnings optimism, treasuries gain. SK Hynix posts record profit as AI demand powers on. Tesla lays out bold ambitions for 2025 as value soars by $80 billion in a day. So Elliott and Southwest near deal to avert board battle, and McDonald's does damage control as shares fall after E. coli outbreak. So this has been a big news of the week, where there's an outbreak of E. coli disease, and the CDC managed to trace this to McDonald's, which led to a big sell-off in the stock. And of course, in after hours trading, you can see the market was down 5.12%. So Bitcoin's rally cools as Trump trades present hurdles for crypto. So that's also a key consideration for the day. So that being said, there's other key highlights to be focused on for the day. One, the election countdown is getting closer and closer. This is the US presidential election. So it's set to happen on the 5th of November this year. And that's just 11 days from today, 12 hours, 38 minutes. So it's the biggest event of the year. Of course, there's a big bets depending on who will be winning. And if you check on poly markets, it seems like Trump is leading. So I would say so I'm trying to Google this real fast so I can give you a highlight, but somehow I'm using a company computer and it doesn't allow access to betting sites. So luckily I can access this one. So presidential election winner 2024. So these are bets on Polymarket. And of course, there has been quite a number of bets that have been placed. So far, almost $1 billion have been placed on, and $500 million on Kamala Harris, which shows a 60.3% probability that Donald Trump will be winning the US presidential election race, and that 9.8% probability that Kamala Harris will be winning. So clearly, there is more confidence that Trump might be winning the presidency, and this is based on bets that have already been placed. So this is not just the normal polls, it's people who have put their money on the line. So besides that, there's also the Federal Reserve Bank of the US, which is set to meet 14 days from now, 9 hours, 37 minutes. So they're expected to meet on the 7th of November. This is 2 days after the election date. And there's a very high probability of 94.5% that the Federal Reserve will be cutting rates by a further 25 basis points, which would push US interest rates to between 4.5% and 4.75%, with a very slight probability that the Fed will be holding rates. The probability is 5.5%, and it predicts that the Fed will be holding rates at the current level of between 4.75% and 5.0%. So those are the key highlights for the day. And on top of that, I'll be adding just one more update. And this is on the earnings side. Of course, we had the Wednesday earnings. So I'll be skipping through to Thursday, which is today. So on Thursday, which is today, we're expecting quite a number of companies to be reporting their earnings. So among the key highlights that you might want to focus your energy on today is American Airlines, Applied Industrial, that will be a key mover in the markets. The Dow will also be reporting, and in this case, the Dow company, or the company that runs the exchange. Then Harley Davidson on automobiles. The Nasdaq exchange, and this is the company that runs the Nasdaq exchange. On top of that, we'll be looking at Southwest Airlines. They'll also be reporting later in the day. Union Pacific will be reporting, and of course, there will be companies that will be reporting after the market closes. So let's look at some key highlights. Coursera has not been doing very well as a company, but there are other companies that has been doing well. Of course, there's key focus on Fast Financial Bancorp, given the challenges they have been going through since last year, especially after the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. So later on, we'll be looking at other companies like VeriSign, Universal Health, as well as Western Digital. So that being said, I think it's time we jump into our favorite part of the presentation, where we basically jump straight and try to understand the current market dynamics and where the markets might be headed next. So let's go straight to the MetaTrader 5 trading application. This is the app that we use for trading on a desktop. If you prefer trading on a smartphone, then you should download the Equity Trader application. You can search the Play Store for Equity Trader by FX Pesa. And when you search equity, it's equity with an I, not Y at the end. So clearly, there's quite a number of developments. I'll be starting with the key highlight, which is gold. So gold had a big sell-off yesterday, dropping to a low of 2709, and since then you can see it has bounced quite strongly. So we discussed this last week that for you to benefit from the current gold rally, you have to be able to time these pullbacks. So every time there's such a nice pullback and you see buyers coming in, then it's your opportunity to go for those bullish positions. And today seems like quite a day where the gold price is making a recovery from the sell-off that we saw yesterday. So a potential target and potential new all-time high of $2,358 per troy ounce of gold. So currently at 27.37, there's still more room to rally to 27.58, especially before the New York Open. So I'm quite bullish on gold. I expect this bullish momentum to continue. So as for US equity indices, especially after Tesla, notice how we had a big sell-off yesterday. So right from the open, we had a drop of about 2.2% before the market recovered towards midnight. So notice the kind of liquidity grab we experienced here, where the market went for the lowest price of the last 2 weeks. And since then, this area here, there was quite a forced breakout towards the lower side. But since then, the market has made quite a strong pullback and is making a run towards yesterday's open, which was around here. So we should be expecting the current Nasdaq rally to continue and extend towards an area around $20,375 per share. Of course, we have the Dow Jones, which is also making an impromptu visit to a previous area, which was acting as a resistance area. So notice when the market was ranging here, this was the major resistance. The market broke and retested the area before proceeding to make quite a strong rally into a new all-time high. But then we have seen the market pulling back downwards for the last 3 days. And since then, notice the strong bounce from this support area here, which was previous resistance now turned into support. Also notice the coincidence with this area here, which indicates a likely reversal and potential rally to previous bottoms now turned into resistance. So I expect the Dow to now at least rally to 42,706. So as for SP500, it's the same story. Major resistance here now turned into a support after it was broken, and the market has retested the same area again. So if you observe this area here, you will notice how the market bounced quite strongly. And now with the current rally, there's that expectation that the market could push to recover and get to the open that we saw yesterday. So potentially extending the rally to 5,850. So as for the Russell 2000, it's also following suit. So we are also seeing a strong bounce from the Russell. So following the same pattern and path, we're expecting the market to at least retest yesterday's open or even high. And it seems to be quite close to the idea. So not much of an opportunity here. So looking at Brent oil, which is also making a surprise comeback. So notice how we had this strong rally here, where the market was strongly moving towards the upper side, found resistance here, and since then we haven't seen oil prices at such a high. So since then, price has been moving back downwards. So I'm just trying to clear this so that it's open for everyone. And from the 1 hour chart, this is how it looks like. So it's more of a market that was finding resistance here. So notice how the price made a breakout and then followed this with a pullback to the same area here. So breakout was from the resistance that the market was unable to break for at least a week. And now, after retesting this area, there has been a nice bounce, and we could be seeing a rally to this area here. So potentially, Brent oil could extend the rally to $77.395 per barrel. So, on the other hand, looking at currencies, the dollar index has been pretty strong, making quite a rally. So, having bottomed at around 99.831, it rallied all the way to 104. The highest price that we saw was 104.364. And today it seems quite likely that the dollar index will continue the bearish momentum. We haven't been getting a lot of those. And in this case, when you see the dollar index giving back some gains, then it's time to focus on long positions on the majors. Of course, the pound has been a pretty strong mover with a major resistance showing at around this area here. So far already the pound is facing some resistance. So potentially we could be seeing the pound behaving the same way it has been behaving since it started this particular trend line. So notice how anytime the pound has gotten to this trend line, it has followed the move with a bearish momentum. And this has been the case going up and down, up and down, up and down, following a very strong dollar in the market. So we will be observing this area to see if there's a reversal or whether the market breaks out of the trend line and forms a new high, higher perhaps than yesterday's high. So as for Euro USD, we're also seeing a similar case. So I remember we talked about this double top formation here and then the extension all the way down to this support area here. So this played out as expected, and now going to the 1 hour chart, notice the strong bearish momentum. So anytime there has been a pullback upwards, it has been met with a big sell-off. And now the euro is going for another key level test along this particular trend line here. So for now, I expect the euro to be at least bullish, especially following the better than expected services and manufacturing PMI. So potentially short-term intraday rally to this bottom here, as well as this as a bottom. Notice how they coincide here. And now the market is pushing higher. So potentially, I expect the euro to retest 1.08120 before we make another decision on whether to break or push back downwards. So pound yen had been making a very strong rally as the yen has remained weak across board. So following the strong rally in pound yen, you can see that things seem to have turned, and now there is a slight pullback from yesterday's high, and now the market is looking to retest some key level support here. So the idea is that the trend is currently still very strong. So even if we are seeing this pullback here, we could be seeing the market bouncing and continuing the bullish momentum, given that we are seeing all this move being reversed and the market moving to previous highs, following the comment by the Bank of Japan that they will not be hiking interest rates anymore. So in this case, an overall expectation for the pound yen to continue with its bullish momentum. So we should be expecting or looking for bullish signs or signs that the buyers are entering this market. So for the Australian dollar against the US dollar, of course, we saw the market pulling back downwards. We expected the market to retest the support area. That has already happened. So going to a smaller time frame, in this case, the 1 hour time frame, we know that the market is currently trading in a channel. So this is the lower trend line on the channel. And of course, the upper trend line on the channel seems to be following this path right here. So I'm trying to find a line of best fit that approaches all these highs. So from this high to this high, this high, and this high. And currently we are on an upswing. Of course, the Australian dollar trying to gain some momentum against the dollar. Of course, now the new target remains on the upper trend line, around 0.66784. So As for the UK 100 index or the FTSE 100 index, we are not seeing much of an activity. So it's basically one very noisy market, not making much of a progress here. Of course, in such a market, you want to trade the extremes when the market is at a high or a low. So now we are approaching another extreme. Of course, we should be looking for opportunities to short the market. Now that we are approaching this area here, that hasn't happened yet. So we remain positive that we'll be seeing evidence of sellers coming into the market. So I believe I've covered a majority of the asset classes: pound USD, euro USD, AUD USD. Of course, we have USD against the Swiss franc, which is trading in what looks like a wedge or pennant. It's more of a triangular formation where the market, in this case, is forming lower highs as well as lower lows. But the two trend lines are approaching each other in what we may describe as a pennant, following a big flagpole that happened yesterday in the morning. So in this case, we should be expecting at least some form of breakout to signal a trade. That hasn't happened yet. If the breakout is to the upper side, we go for buys. If it's to the lower side, we go for short selling positions. But now the overall expectation is that the market remains within the consolidation here. So we had USD card where the Bank of Canada basically decided to cut interest rates. So after cutting interest rates, you can see that the flag had a bullish break. So in this case, the dollar was gaining against the Canadian dollar. So yesterday's summary was a very strong rally, which ended up with some sell-off. And now we are seeing the Canadian dollar strengthening against the US dollar. So, of course, rate cuts are expected to weaken the currency. Of course, the market had been pricing this in. If you look at the 4-hour chart, we had 1, 2, 3, 4 straight weeks where the dollar was gaining against the Canadian dollar as investors were pricing in the rate cut. But now we are seeing the exact opposite reaction. So we should be monitoring this area here to see if there's potential for a break. And if the market breaks below yesterday's low, then that would be a signal that the market is reversing. And now we should be looking at much lower targets. In this case, all the way down to 1.37470 remain a target, subject to confirmation if the market breaks yesterday's low, which is the support area here. So that being said, I believe we have covered pretty much everything. So the momentum in Bitcoin seems to be slowing down after we saw the market make a very impressive rally and get to $68,000 per Bitcoin. In fact, the highest price we got was $69,489, breaking this particular trend line for the first time. And now we are looking for that potential break out of this 6-month range. So we have been in this 7-month range, sorry, and now the market is on the verge of making a breakout, and that breakout could potentially happen this week or next week. So investors and traders are largely expecting this breakout to happen at some point. Of course, so far things are not looking that rosy, given what we are seeing here, which is the potential for the market now forming lower lows and lower highs. But for now, it seems much more likely that we are on a bullish day and we could be extending the bullish momentum for the better part of the day. Also notice that there is a key level pattern that was formed here in Bitcoin. So if you are a person who prefers technical price action patterns, then you know that this was a head and shoulder pattern. So ranging from this area to this, forming the basis for our first shoulder, then going for the head and back, and then going for the other shoulder. So this is a key level reversal pattern indicating that the market may reverse. So there was a breakout below the neckline and the market pumped higher. So now we are potentially looking at the market forming this sequence here, which indicates the potential for Bitcoin moving further back downwards and perhaps retesting the previous low, which we saw yesterday around 65,258. So this is a much more likely outcome based on what we are seeing, but on the daily is still indicative of a potential breakout. So on a very short time frame, that is the 1 hour time frame, the book pattern indicates that the market is headed back downwards. So now I'll be checking on the questions that you guys may have raised, respond to them as we approach the end. So in this case, Japan is stuck. They tried hiking interest rates. That strengthened their currency, but also threatened their stock market. There was a big crash in the Nikkei 225 index after hiking interest rates. And the Bank of Japan took some step backwards and decided they are not going to be hiking rates anymore, which increased bets against the yen. And that's why the yen has been losing against other currencies. Of course, if you look at the yen trading against the dollar, it's the same story, going back to 150 and moving even higher. So currently we are at 152. This is a key level resistance area. Notice how the market broke above that area here. So from the 1 hour time frame, this is more of a breakout retest continuation pattern. So breakout, retest, and now we should be looking for continuations around this area here. So the area to observe for bullish entry is here, looking to see if there is evidence of buyers coming into this market. So I can see Lemmer in the house, Samuel, Grace, Melvin, Bieni, thank you for joining. Victor Mutuma, thank you for joining. Irene Karaoke. J Squad, we have already covered USD CAD and Euro USD. Thank you for the request. Peter Kihenjo, thank you for joining. So there's one good comment from Scalping Secrets. No one has ever been consistent with trend lines unless you are taking the daily time frame. Don't believe you. We have been doing this for years. Just in case you realized about these sessions, they have been happening every day from Monday to Friday. So you can feel free to check out the projections we made, the calls we made in the markets, but that's where the market headed. Hopefully that will resolve your issue. How do we use a buy stop limit and a sell stop limit? I believe we have a session for that on FX Pesa YouTube. So kindly search for that, buy stop limit and sell stop limit on FX Pesa YouTube. You should find a video for that. So thank you very much, everyone. So I would like to remind you that we have a session happening at Sarit Center, and the session will be starting at 2 p.m. where we'll be discussing trading strategy, risk management, as well as the potential market movers for the week, for the month, and towards the US elections. So we'll be looking at a potential trading strategy of how to take advantage of the US election period and how to maximize trading performance during that period. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you on the next session. If you're watching this on YouTube, remember to like and subscribe. If you're watching this on X, remember to like and share. And of course, we have new episodes coming up in the Bullish Banter podcast. We have a new episode of the Financially Incorrect podcast. Make sure to check them out. If you're just beginning your trading journey, remember to check out the Novice to Pro series. It's a course available on FX Pesa YouTube to help you progress real fast. And at the same time, if you are looking to begin trading, check the links in the description below to register for an account. If you're watching this from X, then visit the FX Pesa handle and get a link to register for a live trading account. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you for your time. See you at 2 p.m. today at Sarit Center. If you need directions, just check the FX Pesa YouTube. FX Pesa social media, especially on Twitter as well as Instagram. You can also check my own personal handle on X. It's Rufus KE, and you'll see the description to the event. And hopefully we meet there and we get to discuss out more about the markets. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your time. I hope to see you on that event. And remember, if you just joined this session for the first time, you should know that it happens every day from Monday to Friday on FX Pesa YouTube as well as FX Pesa X or Twitter account. Thank you very much, guys. See you then.